Imagine a battlefield so vast that it holds over 6,000 tanks, each ready to define the fate of the world. Welcome to the prelude of the Battle of Kursk, known as the largest and most intense tank battle in history. In the summer of 1943, the eyes of the world turned to a small Soviet city, where the strategic importance of Kursk had drawn the forces of Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union into a colossal confrontation. For both adversaries, Kursk was more than just a point on the map. It was a potential turning point in the war, especially after the severe losses both sides had endured in previous confrontations. The Germans, reeling from their defeat at Stalingrad, were desperate to regain momentum and alter the course of the war in their favor. Meanwhile, the Soviets saw an opportunity to decisively weaken the invading forces and reclaim their territory. This was not just a battle. It was a showdown that would either pave the way for a Soviet push or breathe new life into the Nazi war effort. In the summer of 1943, the German Wehrmacht launched one of its most ambitious operations. Codenamed Operation Citadel, the strategy was audacious and clear: encircle and annihilate the Soviet forces entrenched around the Kursk salient. This was to be the largest armored clash in history, a desperate bid by Hitler to regain the initiative on the Eastern Front. The German High Command meticulously planned the operation, hoping to pinch off the Kursk salient by attacking its northern and southern flanks simultaneously. The idea was to surround the Soviet forces and squeeze them out of existence. To achieve this, the Germans amassed an impressive array of firepower. At their disposal were nearly 3,000 tanks and assault guns, among them the formidable new Panther and Tiger tanks, which were seen as crucial to piercing the deep Soviet defenses. However, the operation was plagued by setbacks from the start. Originally scheduled for May, the attack was repeatedly postponed to allow more of the new tanks to reach the front. This delay proved to be a double-edged sword. While it gave the Germans time to gather strength, it also provided the Soviets with invaluable time to prepare their defenses. Soviet intelligence, having cracked German communication codes, played a pivotal role. They were aware of the German plans and used the extra time to build an elaborate defense network. Mines, anti-tank ditches, and fortified zones were meticulously constructed. With every passing day, the Soviets fortified their positions, turning Kursk into a fortress waiting for the German assault. While Germany planned, the Soviet Union prepared. As the whispers of Operation Citadel reached the ears of Soviet command, Marshal Georgy Zhukov wasn't caught off guard. Instead, he orchestrated one of the most formidable defensive setups in military history. The Soviets meticulously crafted multiple defensive lines, which stretched across several miles. Each line bristled with anti-tank weapons, fortified positions, and an intricate web of trenches that would challenge any advancing army. In addition to these fortifications, the landscape itself became a weapon. Vast minefields were laid, estimated to contain millions of mines, effectively turning the Kursk salient into a deadly trap. These mines were not just mere obstacles. They were strategically placed to channel the German tanks into killing zones where Soviet artillery could inflict maximum damage. Behind these lines, Zhukov kept powerful strategic reserves, ready to exploit any weakness in the German advances. Soviet intelligence played a crucial role, having successfully deciphered German communication codes, giving the Red Army a clear picture of what to expect. The stage was set, and the Soviets were not just waiting to defend, they were ready to counterattack. July 5, 1943, marked the explosive beginning of Operation Citadel. As dawn broke, the silence was shattered by one of the largest artillery barrages in history. The earth itself seemed to tremble under the weight of thousands of guns, each firing in a symphony of destruction aimed at the Soviet defenses. As the artillery fire tapered, the German panzer divisions, engines roaring, began their relentless advance. Amongst these were some of the most formidable tanks of the Second World War, including the fearsome Tiger and Panther tanks. Their target was the Kursk salient, a bulge in the Soviet lines that protruded into German-held territory, ripe for encirclement. The Soviet forces, however, were far from unprepared. They had constructed multiple layers of defensive works, which included minefields, anti-tank ditches, and fortified positions. As the German tanks advanced, they were met with fierce resistance. The Soviet defenders, entrenched and resolute, unleashed their own armor, including the robust T-34 tanks, in a desperate bid to hold the line. The clash was monumental. At Prokhorovka, the battle reached its zenith. Here, nearly 1,000 tanks engaged in direct combat, a spectacle of mechanical warfare never before seen on such a scale. The battlefield was enveloped in noise, the clanking of metal, the booming of cannons, and the eerie screech of tank treads over rough terrain. Amidst this chaos, the sky was streaked with the trails of aircraft, adding another layer to the complex ballet of war. Dive bombers and fighters swooped down, strafing and bombing, while anti-aircraft fire from the ground answered angrily, stitching the sky with lines of deadly intent. The fields of Kursk were transformed into a landscape of metal and fire, a testament to the ferocity of the clash. What seemed like a German advantage slowly turned into a grueling battle of attrition. As the sun rose over the scarred fields of Kursk, the initial momentum of the German panzers was met with an unyielding wall of Soviet resolve. The Germans had expected a swift victory, but the Soviets had other plans. The Red Army, seasoned and stern from years of relentless warfare, mounted a defense that was as fierce as it was strategic. The Soviet soldiers dug deep into their positions, turning the landscape into a labyrinth of anti-tank ditches and minefields. This formidable network of defenses bled the German forces dry, with each meter gained costing them dearly in men and machines. But it wasn't just the stout-hearted defense that stymied the German advance. Logistical nightmares began to plague the invaders. Supply lines were overstretched and vulnerable to attacks. Fuel and ammunition dwindled, sapping the strength of the German war machine. The skies, once dominated by the Luftwaffe, saw increasing interference from the Soviet Air Force. Agile and determined, Soviet pilots took a heavy toll on German supply columns, further disrupting their operational capabilities. As the battle wore on, the Soviets seized the initiative. Counteroffensives were launched with renewed vigor, forcing the Germans to divert precious resources and reinforcements to multiple fronts. This strategic shift not only halted the German advance, but also sowed the seeds of confusion and disarray within their ranks. Operation Citadel, designed to be a swift and decisive blow, was becoming a quagmire for German forces. As the dust settled, the world grasped the scale of what had transpired at Kursk. The battle, marked by its unprecedented ferocity and scale, left both the Axis and Soviet forces counting staggering losses. On one hand, the Germans lost upwards of 500 tanks and assault guns, while Soviet casualties included nearly 1,500 tanks. But the numbers only tell part of the story. The human cost was immense, with thousands of soldiers lost on both sides, painting a stark picture of war's brutal reality. Yet, it's the strategic aftermath that truly underscored the significance of the Battle of Kursk. For the Germans, Kursk represented the final sputter of their once-feared blitzkrieg across the Eastern Front. The failure to break through the meticulously prepared Soviet defenses marked a critical turning point. The Wehrmacht, stretched thin and demoralized, would never again muster the strength to launch an offensive of this magnitude, shifting from a stance of aggression to one of desperate defense. On the flip side, the Soviets emerged not just victorious, but emboldened. The successful defense reinforced their confidence and honed their military strategies. Kursk was a testament to the effectiveness of deep defensive layouts and the utility of strategic reserves, setting a precedent for future Soviet military operations. This battle was a clear signal that the Red Army was gaining the upper hand, paving the way for their relentless push westward, which would eventually culminate in the fall of Berlin. Technologically and tactically, Kursk was a watershed. It was here that the impact of air power, combined arms operations, and the utility of extensive fortifications were clearly demonstrated, influencing military doctrines worldwide. Innovations in tank design and tactics, spurred by the harsh lessons of Kursk, would echo through the corridors of military research and development long after the guns fell silent. The Battle of Kursk not only changed the course of the Eastern Front, it reshaped military strategies and technologies in ways that echo through modern warfare. The echoes of Kursk are still heard today in the annals of military history. Reflecting on the monumental Battle of Kursk, it stands as the largest tank engagement the world has ever witnessed. a pivotal moment in World War II. This battle was not just about the clash of armor, but also the clash of strategic wits and national resolve. Operation Citadel marked a desperate attempt by Nazi Germany to regain dominance on the Eastern Front. In response, the Soviet Union orchestrated one of the most formidable defensive preparations, turning Kursk into a fortress brimming with anti-tank defenses and strategic reserves. The resulting conflict was a brutal showcase of military technology and human determination. The scale of Kursk and the intensity of its combat reshaped military strategies and armored warfare. It highlighted the importance of combined arms operations and the value of extensive pre-battle intelligence and preparation. As tanks rolled and the earth shook, the Battle of Kursk wrote a chapter of history where iron and courage shaped the future of nations.